It looks like we are up and live. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So good morning. My name is Jen Lee with Legal Services of North Dakota, and I am happy to be here today with Allyse Dunnigan for our LSND live um, community conversations discussions that we have on Monday mornings. So thank you for being here, Allyse.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And you are with NDSU Extension. Can you give us a little bit of background on what NDSU Extension is in Grand Forks for those of us who may not be familiar with it?
Absolutely. Extension is kind of the nation's best kept secret. We are in every single state in the USA, and they're run through the land grant university in the state. So that's one of the biggest questions I get is, why aren't you UND Extension? And it's because NDSU is our land grant institution in North Dakota. And so here in North Dakota, we have an extension office in almost every single county. We have agents that do
Wow.
things with agriculture, with family and community wellness. We have dietitians, nutritionists, and we have about 9 of us across the state that are parent educators. So that is my position within Extension. I'm a parent educator in 4 different counties: Grand Forks, Walsh, Pembina, and Nelson County.
Very cool. And how long have you been with the extension?
I only started last July, but when I was in college, I interned with Extension um, through the 4-H office at NDSU. So I've been in the extension world here and there for a long time, but I left the world of education and came over to extension and parent education just last summer.
Very cool. And so let's talk about parent education. What does that entail? What does that look like?
So we offer free classes. Almost all of our classes are free. All of the resources we offer are free to any sort of caregiver. It could be parents, grandparents, foster parents, people trying to get their kids back, master parents, any sort of caregiving role. A lot of our classes offer credits for childcare providers as well. And so that's a really great opportunity for those like at-home daycare providers to get those continuing education credits. So a wide variety of classes for any sort of caregivers in any stage.
And you said all the classes are, for the most part, they're free.
Almost all of them. Yep.
And are they in person? Are they online? How do they work?
We have a mix of both. So if you go to our website
Okay.
right now, which is ndsu.ag/parent education, because we're in the College of Agriculture. So that's a little bit confusing too. But then you'll see a full list, and some of them are in person in different parts of the state, and some of them are online. So we try to offer a variety of both. There isn't exactly a schedule. So say that you really want to take Circle of Security. It's not like we offer it once a month or once a quarter. It just kind of depends on the requests we get and who has time in their schedule and who can offer it when and where.
Okay, cool. And I will put the link into the description of the video when we're all done. And so people will be able to click on it instead of having to try to remember where to go and what to do. Um, you had mentioned when we had talked earlier about there's infant massage and women's postpartum health classes. Are those
Yes.
new ones? Are they just tell us about those.
Okay, so Sensational Baby is the company that is surrounding American Infant Massage USA, or it's like I forget the exact wording, but
Mhm.
we are partnering. So a lot of us parent educators have now gotten certified in Sensational Baby Infant Massage. So here in Grand Forks, I'm partnering with Home Therapy Solutions to do a combined class of infant massage and postpartum health for postpartum women. So everyone is invited, partners can come because anyone can massage their own baby. It's all about building that connection with your baby. It helps with sleep for both parties. It helps with relaxation for both parties. And
Important.
yeah, and it helps your baby with any gas or colic needs. My oldest baby had colic, and I wish I would have known about this back then because infant massage has shown to reduce crying by like an hour to an hour and a half a day, which is a big deal when you have a colicky baby. That is a lifesaver. And so, yes, we're going to do those classes starting April 17th at Edgewood 55 Plus, the former Parkwood here in Grand Forks. And it's a 4-week
Okay.
class. So you learn a few new massage techniques every week, so it's not too overwhelming. And then Dr. Trisha is going to talk about postpartum health for 2 weeks. And then her partner is going to talk about them the next two. So just some of those things that we don't talk about enough. You know, I feel like
Hmm.
postpartum women kind of feel like they're on an island and there's not a ton of information about what's normal, what's not normal, the different therapies that are offered. For example, I remember hearing about like some ultrasound therapy for right after birth. And so about a week later, I went, I think I'm ready to do that. And they said, oh no, you need to do that in the hospital right away. And so there are certain things like that that we just don't know about, you know, and even now talking to Trisha, she was like, yeah, you could still come in. You know, I haven't had a baby in over 4 years. And she was, you could still come in
Hmm.
and get help because these problems sometimes last a long time. And a lot of the times we think, oh, that's just normal. It just happens after you have a baby, but it doesn't have to be normal. There are things that we can still get therapy for, that physical therapy years later that will help you live a more peaceful life. And so if you are hopefully helping your baby live a more peaceful life with that infant massage and then helping yourself recover physically, we can help you bring that peace home, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it seems like you're right. We don't hear about like the resources. We don't necessarily know about the things that we should know about. And Google can only take you so far. Like you can only get so far trying to Google the stuff. So that's
Absolutely.
great. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
You had also mentioned a parent education retreat, and that sounds very interesting. Can you tell me about
Yes,
that?
we were really excited about that. We were going to do a parent retreat at Turtle River State Park, where we kind of taught camping 101 to families, but unfortunately, our
Mhm.
federal grant that was going to provide for that was just canceled last week.
Well,
So
that's too
that
bad. So you're looking for funding for
yes.
a parent
So
retreat.
if yes, if
Okay.
there are any funding sources out there, yes, that would be wonderful because we had everything really ready to go. But yeah, we
Mhm.
had some parent educators lined up. We had some rangers looking to do like campfire cooking, some safety with fire and water. So camping is one of those things that unless you grew up with it, it's a hard hobby to start because it's like, where do I start? How
It
do I get
is.
a tent? What tent do I need? And so just kind of building those outdoor connections with our kids was our goal. So yes, if you know of any grants or funding, feel free to send me an email, anyone listening. But for now, we've had to
Exactly.
cancel it for now. So
Okay.
that's a bummer.
I'm
But
sorry to hear that, but I also
yeah,
think
me
it's important
too.
to talk about those things that were planned that are not able to be done anymore. And so getting the word out to people in the state and people that are looking for things to support, that definitely sounds like something that we should be able to find um, organizational support for. So thank you for mentioning that. And it sounds really cool. I was not one who grew up with camping. And every time I think of camping, I'm like,
I
my
know.
kids are always asking, I'm like, I don't
That's
know that I
exactly
like the
it.
sound of that.
I
So,
know, even though I grew
yeah.
up with it, it's so intimidating. The idea of like, I need to find all my food for the weekend and how to cook it and how to store it. And like, it's just really intimidating. And so my husband
Yeah.
really loves camping. So then he does all of that planning. So it's kind of planning this a little bit for me too, to learn how do
Yeah.
I do this?
No.
And, you know, even just when we get to our campsite and the kids are like, what can we do? I'm like, I don't know. Don't touch the plants yet because I don't know if they're poisonous. And watch out for those animals. I don't know. And, you know, don't go by the water. So I think it's just helpful
Right.
to, you know, talk to rangers about what are some safe things our kids can do here and, you know, what age is right for which activities and
Hmm.
just a personal tour of those parks. You know, Turtle River State Park is so close to Grand Forks and we don't utilize it enough. And they have some really great trails there, some
Yeah.
really cool activities. And so, yeah, I was really hopeful that that would be a good
Okay.
introduction for a lot of us. But hopefully it'll work out maybe next year, maybe
Well,
later in the summer.
yeah, maybe we can still make it happen. I always have hope that things could
Yes.
happen. It sounds like you guys did a good job planning it already. So,
Yeah, yeah, a lot of the
um,
planning was done. Oh well.
so for your classes and things like this, how do you make the classes accessible to parents with very busy schedules? I feel like that's probably one of the barriers sometimes to doing these kinds of things.
Absolutely. Yes. So we have the classes online on Zoom. We also have them in person. Our in-person classes are usually provided with free childcare. So here in the Grand Forks area, we offer
Okay.
that through Little Keepers. So we will pay for the Little Keepers time during that class, like a little bit before and after, so you have time for drop off, pickup, of course. So any time that
Mm.
you would take a class in my region, Region 4, Grand Forks, Pembina Walsh, Nelson counties, we would offer that childcare at Little Keepers. Every region is a little bit different in the way that they offer childcare, but that is there for the in-person classes. And then we also have the Zoom classes, so you can have your kids with you, or you're in the same house, in the same room sometimes as your kids. So if you are able to pay attention to a little bit of both, that's a good opportunity. We also do some lunch and learn classes. So if you're somebody that has a little bit of a flexible schedule, you can eat your lunch and watch our 1 hour webinar, our book studies we often do over lunch. So lots of different opportunities there
Okay.
for both evening classes and during the daytime classes.
That's really cool because I do think that, I mean, we all have different work schedules, we all have different things going on, and sometimes a night class may not be like people have to work at night. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of things. So I think that's great that there's options and flexibility there.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of the challenges with parents right now? I think there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but what are you seeing at the extension for challenges?
So we recently started a book study around The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and that has to do with
Mm,
adolescence and social media, and that has been really successful. We've had over 70 participants in just the past few months. We did an evening
wow.
session and then two lunchtime sessions, and people are really interested in talking about this. It's hard to know how to parent your adolescent when they have the world in their pocket, and there's so many things
Yeah.
that go on whether it's bullying or just the pressure they see in social media. There's addiction that kids deal with their devices. And so it's really been great to talk about that openly with parents. So the book kind of focuses on like the bad, here's all the bad things. And then the very end is like, you could take action. So we try to put our spin on it and talk about how to connect with your kid through all of these bad things. How can you
Mhm.
still maintain that connection? How can you talk to them about this? And then, of course, we talk about that collective action in the last week. And what can you actually do? What is important enough for you to do? Do you want to talk to the legislature? Do you want to talk to your school board? Do you want to take action within your child's circle of friends and talk to those parents about things that you can do together? So I think that's really helpful just to discuss, here's all the options.
Yeah,
What do you actually want to do? Or is this important to you? Or how can we spread the word type of stuff? But that one I think has been a really important one and really timely.
sounds like it. And 70 participants over the last few weeks is or a few months has been a is fantastic because it's hard to get people to hard topics are hard to get people to show up for. Like you have a great presentation on something and it's hard to get people there because they don't want to admit that they
Yep.
may have that problem. So it's always one of those catch-22 type things, it seems. We see that in the legal world a lot too. People don't want
Yeah.
to necessarily talk about the things going on with them. So um do you is, do you see people that hesitate to sign up for things because they're worried what other people will think?
Absolutely. Parent classes have kind of a bad stigma, right? It seems like, well, I don't need that. I can tell you, I did not think I needed any parent education classes, but these have been so helpful just to create a more peaceful environment at home. So things like positive discipline, I was kind of like, I mean, I think we're fine. We're fine with it. Like I taught for years. I'm good. It's fine. Taking that class has kind of opened my eyes to so many different techniques that I hadn't considered before. And it's really just created more peace. Like my 4-year-old is a very angry little fella sometimes. And and
Yeah.
so taking that class and kind of helping to understand where he's coming from and some techniques that are different than the way I was raised, we'll say, has really
Mhm.
helped just to create a better home environment. Circle of Security talks about the way that we were raised and whether we like that or don't like that. It approaches some of those really difficult emotions like anger. Were you shown anger in a healthy way by your parents or maybe not? Because if you weren't, you're not going to know how to help your kids through that. Shame is a really big one.
Right.
If you came to your parents and said, I cheated on a test, were they like, how could you? That's terrible. You're the worst. You're not going to know how to healthily show your child how to experience shame, but if they're like, oh, that was a mistake, let's figure out how to work through it. Let's talk to your teacher. We'll admit it. We'll, redo whatever we need to do. That's a more healthy way of dealing with it. And you're going to then know how to parent your child in that way. So I think that one is a really interesting class, Circle of Security, that deals with how you were parented, because not all of us were parented in a really perfect way. There's no perfect parents, but it helps you kind of
Right.
look at, oh, okay, maybe that's why my instinct is to do this instead of this when it comes to parenting.
I know a lot of people don't realize the things they do because of something that or how they were raised or something that someone said at one time to them. It comes up quite a bit in some of the work that I do too. And you just don't realize that your reaction isn't helpful.
Yeah,
Um, because that's how you just assume everybody reacts to it. That's how you're raised.
absolutely.
So that's
Mhm.
good. I like that. I like that circle of security. I may have to go look at that one myself
It's
and
really
see what's
cool.
out there.
It's really fun just to examine
Cool.
that in yourself and then kind of look at, oh, that's why I'm doing that. Or do I want to keep
Yeah.
doing that? Or do I want to change? Then you have that decision
Yep.
yourself. So I think that's the great thing is like, here are the tools. You can use them, you cannot.
Mhm.
You can test them out, you cannot. So that's been a really fun part about learning more about this parent education stuff.
Very cool. And you said that there's 9 extension offices in the or 9 parenting educators in the state. Are the programs available outside of your counties you serve directly? Like if someone is there an online course they can take from anywhere, basically?
Yes, absolutely. So like if I offer an online course, anyone in the state can take it. Anyone outside of the state can take it.
Okay.
We just can't guarantee that it's for free to residents outside the state. So in state,
Okay.
most things are free for North Dakota residents. But for example, when we did our Anxious Generation book study, we had some Minnesota residents take it and we just couldn't provide the book for free, whereas North Dakota residents
Got
got
it.
it for free. So just
Okay.
little things like that
Okay.
with our grant funding, little quirks.
Yes. We know all about the grant funding. That's how we're funded too. So we're always trying
Okay.
to figure out, okay, what's the rule for this one?
Yep. Yep.
Um, So how can professionals, like I'm thinking in legal services and also maybe healthcare or schools, how do they refer families to your programs or how do they connect with you all to make sure that people know about you?
Yeah, so our website, ndsu.ag/parent education, has all of our courses that are upcoming. If you just Google NDSU parent education, that website will come up, but also we will come up too. And so you'll see which region or
Okay.
which area we're in. And so depending on your need, you can call any one of us. You could call the person closest to you. Sometimes if it is like I need a class in Fargo, I would refer you then to Jeannie in Fargo versus um, trying to take that on just because she knows more about what's happening right in Fargo. But yes, any one of us can help you. We all have a bunch of resources. We all have different specialties. So like I taught middle school for years. So young adolescents are more so my specialty, whereas like JC in Mandan has an occupational therapy background. So she's a great person to talk
Okay.
to about those littles and kind of developmental milestones. So yeah, we all have a little bit of a different specialty. Blanche is a former principal, so she's really good with that. It's kind of neat, just this
Mhm.
network of our different expertise, and how we come together to meet all the different needs of North Dakota parents.
Very cool. Is there anything else coming up that we should talk about or anything new and exciting?
Yeah, there's a lot of book studies happening this month. April is Child Abuse
Okay.
Prevention Month, and so a lot of us have gotten child abuse prevention grants just for this month. And so there's some book studies coming up. If you're in Mandan or the area, there's a Wear Blue Day hike. There's a webinar coming up April 29th about child anxiety. I will be attending that because my 6-year-old has anxiety already. There's some conscious discipline classes online, Circle of Security online, Nurtured Heart Approach online. So lots and lots of different options for any stage of parenting that you're in. A lot of the information is transferable to different ages. So even if it looks like it might be geared towards younger ones, a lot of it you can transfer to your older kids as well. And if there's classes that you're interested in that you don't see offered, reach out to one of us and express that interest, and we'll try to get it offered at a time that works for you. So that's the great part too, is we are pretty
That's very
flexible
cool.
and looking at what the community wants and needs. So if you let us know, we'll see what we can do.
You can come up with something. That's very
Yes.
cool. Well, I really appreciate your time and thank you. I didn't even really know this existed until I had started working in legal services and this popped up as a resource out there. So thank you for telling our viewers and our audience how this all works. And looking forward to, I'm going to check out some of those the book circles, the book clubs, because I love to read, and it sounds like
Yes,
a good opportunity to learn. So
absolutely. Thank you for
thank
having
you so
me.
much for your time.
Yeah, you
I
too.
appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Allyse.
Thank you.